Welcome to Everyday Cooking with Ann. We are doing Mexican food right now, and I love Mexican food. I grew up in Arizona where I've had good and bad Mexican food, and I've lived out of state where it seems like no one knows how to make good Mexican food. But I have been very fortunate to be able to learn how to make a few things from a few authentic Mexicans who I've either worked with or had a class with. And they taught me some really great things that I want to share with you today about how to make authentic, really great tasting Mexican food. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to make my homemade salsa. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is actually my own recipe, but I based it off of this woman that I worked with that was an authentic Mexican. She brought this and she only used 4 ingredients, and it made a great salsa. But I'm adding a few other things too as well, which really makes it extra special. So let me show you the ingredients we're going to make in our homemade salsa. Okay, you need to have a really good quality 28-ounce can of whole tomatoes. That's whole tomatoes, not chopped tomatoes or tomato puree, because you want all the juice that it comes in as well. Any brand will work, except that you want a high quality brand to have a high quality salsa. You can use Contadina. This is a Kirkland brand that is really, really good. So just experiment with your favorite brand of tomatoes. Unless you grow your own, which I was able to get from my neighbors, and I have now made my own homemade plum tomatoes, tomato sauce. So, but we're not going to be using that tonight. What else we're having in our salsa is we are going to have 4 to 5 pieces of garlic. Now that's going to be your preference. It calls for 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. I love garlic and it just makes it, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not going to tell you how many onions. It's just a bunch of onions. So buy 1 bunch of onions, a bunch of cilantro. I usually use fresh lime juice, but in case you don't, real lime does really work in Mexican food, so you can use that as well. I have received a recipe that I now use with all my Mexican food. I put it in my homemade beans. I put it in any kind of taco seasoning I want to use. I put it in everything, and this is my own Mexican seasoning mix. I will post this with the recipe below, so you'll have the recipe of how to make this, and I would like several times it. And it will be in the recipe where it says show more below in this video. Okay, so this will also be printed with the recipe for the salsa. Okay, we're going to be using that. I'm also showing you something else that I think is so much easier than cutting up your own home fresh, because I love the way it tastes. So here I have it's actually pickled jalapenos. And these work really great in here. And so will also be to taste. I've already had some frozen ready to put into my next batch. And so you can use some of the juice from this, and you can put maybe 1 or 2 at the most, but if you really want it hot, you're gonna add more. So you're gonna wanna start with 1, taste it and see how you like it. If you like more mild sauce, you're gonna try 1, and then you might go to 1.5 or 2 jalapenos. It just depends on your preference, but I've tried it both ways. When I think something's really perfect, my husband will say, that's way too hot. So you gotta go with your preference and what your family will eat. And then to kind of offset the lime juice here, I of course add sugar almost everything. I hate to admit that, but it really does add to the flavor. I've got here 1 to 2 tablespoons. So if that's one thing you can do to add a little bit extra later too, after you do 1 tablespoon, see how it works out. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to show you how easy this is to make. I love my Ninja, and I'll tell you why I love it. Better than a blender, better than anything else you can use, food processor. I love it because it has these spiral blades in it, which means it's going to work on the entire food all the way to the top of your bin, which I love that about this. And I love that they have this size plus the bigger size. This is perfect for making this recipe. So, okay, I'm going to throw in my tomatoes right in here. And I'm going to throw in my garlic. You don't need to chop that up, but you are going to need to chop up a little bit these onions so that they will fit in there inside the container. So I'm going to throw all of my onions in here, just chopped up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and put the seasonings in before I put the cilantro in. Okay, I'm going to be putting in 2 tablespoons of lime juice. Fresh lime juice or real lime juice. Now I want you to know I experimented. This is my own recipe. I have served this salsa at catering events, and people have told me, you have got to bottle this. It is the best. Now, I have to tell you, it is really best to eat fresh. So if you're making it for a crowd or just for your family, it'll last, of course, a week or so in your refrigerator, but it is really best. The first day or two is the best time to eat this. Okay, so we're going to put like a teaspoon of salt. I always use the Himalayan pink salt. And we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of my Mexican seasoning. And we'll just try the 1 teaspoon of, or a little bit more of my sugar there. Okay, that's all in there. Now I'm going to stuff in my cilantro. I've already trimmed so there's not too many stems in it and the cilantro. So I'm going to stuff that right in the top here. I'm just going to put this on medium. You don't want to put it on puree because you want little chunks of tomato and pieces there to put in your mouth on the cilantro and everything. Okay, this will have to do a little bit more too. Okay, so I'm going to just get my spoon here. Okay, I got to put some jalapeno in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this one right here in and one of these little ones in. I'm going to probably want more. And actually some of this juice and extra carrot that they marinate with the pickled is really good in here. So I'm going to do this up here now and try it again and try to taste it in just a second to see if it's what I want. And of course the best way to try this is with your chips, and I'm going to make those too. Okay, you can see just how kind of chunky it is. You see the little bits of cilantro in it. This is so fresh tasting. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit more sugar to it because that's just me. And the 2 jalapenos that I added are probably a little bit hot, so start with 1. Okay, I'm going to try this one more time. Oh, that is perfect. I think the 2 tablespoons of sugar makes it, personally. So experiment on your own. Decide how you like it. Those are the main ingredients. And enjoy with everything from tacos, enchiladas, and toppings on eggs. It's so good. Fresh salsa, there's nothing better. But especially with my homemade tortilla chips. And I'm going to post that video at the top of the screen after this one so that you can know how to make those as well. So enjoy and happy Mexican. I'm really amazed at how many people don't know how to make homemade tortilla chips, okay? It's so much better than anything that you could buy in the store, any brand you buy in the store, and it's so easy to do. So I'm going to teach you how to make your own homemade tortilla chips. Every time I've taken this to a party with my homemade salsa I make or the corn and bean salad that I make, it just goes so well with it, and people go, oh, this just ups it a notch like this much to be able to have homemade fresh tortillas. And I use regular white corn tortillas, but you can use yellow corn tortillas. And all you do is just take a stack of tortillas, and what I've done is just divide them into 6. So it makes the little chip size. I've been heating now for a little while my oil. I'm just using regular vegetable oil to fry these in. And so I'm going to start with I put a little stack of these, not all of them in here because I have about probably 2 or 3 cups. But I put them in the oil. Be very careful. And then I take my this is a great little tool because it's going to drain the oil off of them when you're ready to lift it out. I've got it on high right now. I'm turning it down just a little bit because I don't want them to cook too fast. You want them light colored, not dark colored, so you just put them over here on here, and immediately I just sprinkle some. Kosher salt would be better, but this is just my Himalayan salt. I immediately put that on the tortillas because otherwise it won't stick to it. Okay, so I'm going to do my second batch. That was the first batch, so they are a little bit more discolored a little bit because it's the first batch that goes in. I turned down my heat a little bit. As long as it's bubbling hot, you're good. If you have a deep fat fryer, you know, that's a good way to go. I don't have one and don't use one because I use the same pan for all of my frying, whether it's wontons or any other fried things that I make. So I keep stirring these just so it gets evenly covered in the oil. And I'm going to take them out right now while they're still really nice and light because they will be very nice and crispy. Okay, and I immediately put salt on them.